Guys, every single season we see NFL veterans become fantasy football draft discounts. I am hitting you today with 7 veterans who right now in drafts are undervalued. We will just jump right into the first player on the list, a guy who has been on this list for 3 or 4 years in a row now, and that is Mike Evans. He is undervalued again in 2025. Right now going around pick 40, pick 36 in drafts right at the end of the 3rd round, top of the 4th round. And quite simply, it's been 11 straight seasons here of 1,000+ receiving yards. Literally every year of his career, he has hit 1,000+ receiving yards. With Baker, the last 2 seasons, he's been a top 9 wide receiver for fantasy football, wide receiver 9 in 2024, wide receiver 6 in 2023. And even the years before that, 2021, 2022, top 15 both of those years with QB transitioning and things like that. Now, obviously, Liam Cohen is no longer with Tampa Bay, so the offense might take a little bit of a hit here, but just the production year to year with whoever the quarterback is makes Mike Evans undervalued again. Going low-end wide receiver 2 in drafts, you got to be all over that. One of the best picks in the late 3rd, early 4th, all right? Next up on the list is Tyreek Hill. Now, I'll just come out and say it. Tyreek Hill is a July my guy contender for 2024. He's a very polarizing player in drafts. For 2025. He's a very polarizing player in drafts, but I am in, okay? He has played 3 years so far on the Dolphins. 2022, he was the wide receiver 2 overall. 2023, he was the wide receiver 2 overall. And then last year was his worst season as a Dolphin. He finished wide receiver 18, but he played all 17 games with a torn wrist ligament. And while that was going on, Tua was out for 6 of those games, and he still finished wide receiver 18. His underlying utilization was actually still pretty good, 37% air yard share. It's wide receiver 6, 11.2 average depth of target, also wide receiver 6. So he's still being utilized in the same way. I really just think the injuries to Tua and also to Tyreek got to him. And honestly, the fact that he finished wide receiver 18 overall, played every game through the injury, I think that's actually a good sign. Like, that's a testament to the type of player he is. It's a testament to the fact that he's not washed. So I'm in. I mean, I'm not going to fall for the 1 down season washed, instant wash tag, right? We've made that mistake in the past with Christian McCaffrey, with Derrick Henry a couple years ago. I'm just not going to fall for that. All right. Next up, 3rd guy on the list. Speaking of the aforementioned Christian McCaffrey, 3rd guy on the list here, 3rd undervalued veteran is Christian McCaffrey. Really, the only question here is how many games does CMC play in 2025? If we see 14, 15, geez, a man can dream, 16 games out of McCaffrey, okay? That 2nd round price for him is going to be a steal, all right? The last 7 seasons, starting in 2018, I will read you his finishes, okay? So in 2018, RB2 overall. 2019, RB1. 2020, injured. 2021, injured. 2022, RB2. 2023, RB1. 2024, injured. So in 4 of the last 7 seasons, he's finished a top 2 RB. Another way of saying that is every time he's been healthy, the last 7 seasons, he's finished a top 2 RB. So like I said, the only question is how many games does he play? I think that risk is worth it in round 2. You can structure your roster in a way, right, where you draft a McCaffrey in 2, you come back in 3 with a Chase Brown, a Breece Hall, a Ken Walker maybe, an Alvin Kamara in round 4, a guy like that where your RB2 is basically a low-end RB1, high-end RB2, and McCaffrey is kind of just your wild card X factor week to week. That is an option. And then throughout the rest of your drafts, beginning in round 1, you draft low-risk players. You draft a Nico, a Brian Thomas, a high-volume receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, for example. So there are ways to structure your roster here with McCaffrey on your team where you can minimize that risk. And if he plays, I mean, you're going to have one of the best teams in the league. We're going to hit a mock draft at the end of this episode, guys, so stick around for that. Maybe we'll try to draft a team with McCaffrey, okay? Next guy on the list is Davante Adams. Typically, when a wide receiver is traded mid-season, right, at the age of 31, that is a death sentence, basically, to the fantasy season. I mean, the only time that's basically worked is like a Brandon Marshall, for example, years back on the Jets. It's basically the only time we've seen age 31-plus wide receivers succeed. As for Adams, though, weeks 9 through 18 last year, again, traded mid-season to a whole new offense. 20.1 fantasy points per game, that was wide receiver 3. 32% target share, earning targets among the best in the league, wide receiver 3, okay? And this is just a sign that he is not washed at all. The fact that he is earning targets. Now, I get Rodgers was the wide receiver, but we look at the landing spot for 2025 on the Rams. They went out and got him. Adams wants to be there. Stafford is the type of guy to air it out. If you're earning targets, Stafford's going to get you the ball. We've seen it with Nakua. We've seen it with Kupp. We've seen it at the same time with both those guys. It's one of the reasons I'm not worried about Nakua. I think he's one of the best picks in round 1. There's such a high floor with these Rams receivers and Matthew Stafford at QB. So, honestly, with Adams, this is the best offense he's been in the last couple years at least. So, you have to be in here on Adams in that 4th round, 3rd round, whatever it might be. I think the 4th is the spot for him. I'm taking Evans ahead of Adams, for example, okay? Next veteran on the list, we have Travis Kelce. And again, guys, if you are listening, if you are watching, and you're like, no way, washed, that's the point of the episode, okay? And there are players where I'm like, no, actually, I'm kind of out. Like Cooper Kupp, for an example, is not a guy who's going to make this list, going back to some concerns or some things that I actually wasn't worried about for Adams, where, switching a team as a receiver after the age of 31 is typically not good. Like you think of like Julio Jones going to the Titans, like that kind of vibe. Kupp kind of fits in that category because we saw signs of regression last year. With Adams, we did not. But anyway, Travis Kelce is next on the list, and he's still earning targets. I think targets are really the stat here with aging receivers, aging tight ends, aging pass catchers, okay? Even running back like Alvin Kamara, the targets are still there. The rushing is not, right? So, for example, Kelce, when he gets the ball, maybe he's doing a bit less with it after he gets the ball, but the targets are there. Weeks 8 through 17 last year for Kelce, he had 10-plus targets per game, tied with McBride and Bowers, I believe, for the most of the position. So, for reference, when receivers are averaging 9-plus targets per game, and they play, a majority of games in the season, over 80% of those receivers finish as a top 12 wide receiver. And that's for the receiver position. Kelce's averaging 10-plus targets per game to finish last season, weeks 8 to 17. That's over 2 months. So he's absolutely still a valuable piece of the offense. I'm aware that Rashee Rice was out. I'm aware that they share that kind of target distribution over the middle of the field. I'm aware that Kelce's 35, but I'm also aware that for fantasy football purposes, Kelce is the best tight end of all time. I don't think it's particularly close. And he is going in the 7th round. Like, if he was going in the 4th, even the 5th, right? But he's going in the 7th, guys. The 7th round. Like, tight end 6 or 7 off the board. A Kelce paired with a guy later, like a Loveland, a Warren, okay? A rookie tight end could be the play. A Brenton Strange later, someone like that. So I'm still in on Kelce. Plug and play week 1. Get those early week wins out of the way in your season, okay? Next veteran on the list, Calvin Ridley. I mean, last year there really was no QB. I mean, instead of waiting around to see what Calvin Ridley would do week to week, how he'd produce, we were waiting around for the next Will Levis meme to pop out, okay? This is not the type of environment that, is going to breed fantasy success for receivers. With that being said, though, weeks 8 through 17, the back half of the season, it was pretty promising. He had the most air yards among all wide receivers, over 1,100 air yards. He was top 8 among wide receivers in receiving yards, 760 receiving yards. And he was a top 20 fantasy wide receiver overall. Calvin Ridley, back half of the season, was wide receiver 17. So if he's producing a wide receiver 17 clip, and right now he's going outside the top 50 wide receivers in drafts, I mean, that's a great pick. Outside the top 50 wide receivers, outside easily the top 100 players in draft. It's a very good pick as a wide receiver 4 on a roster with a high ceiling. Who knows? Maybe Cam Ward comes out as the first overall pick that he was drafted to be and goes crazy. That'd be awesome. Calvin Ridley would really benefit from that. Okay? I view him as a safe floor, a good ceiling, and all around just a value pick. Still producing to close last season, so not many signs of being washed there, but overlooked in drafts. Next up, we have James Conner. Now, I labeled 2024 as the best season of Conner's career. Maybe that one season in Pittsburgh, was a bit better from a pure production standpoint. But just from the bell cow meter, okay, the workhorse RB meter, 2024 was Conner's most impressive season. I think maybe that's a better word. If you remember this time last year, everyone was saying that James Conner can't draft him. He's never played a full season. He's never done this, right? Always misses at least one game. I was one of those people. I was not in on Conner, okay? Trey Benson was in town, all that stuff. Then in 2024, He did play every single game. There was one game where he went out very early, but technically, quite literally, he played in every single game. But one of them was not usable for fantasy, so say what you want. But most opportunities in his career since 2018, so 6-7 years ago was the last time he saw the amount of work he did last year. Pretty insane. Not a sign of being washed to me or not being able to carry a workload. He had the most carries in a single year of his career last year. 18 plus opportunities per game. For those of you who follow the channel, follow my content on X, you know that 18 plus opportunities per game extended to a whole season is really the golden number for RB1 output, for top 12 output. There were only 2 running backs last year in the top 12 who didn't hit that number. James Cook was one of them because of so many touchdowns, for example. But yeah, second best yards per attempt of his career last year, James Conner. So all I see here is still a bell cow. I see some legitimate competition in the form of Trey Benson in the backfield, but I don't see anyone else added to the backfield other than Benson, who had a chance or two last year and didn't do too much with it, to be honest. And as for right now, Connor's the lead running back again in Arizona. I think you must handcuff him with Trey Benson, okay? Just because he had an amazing year last year doesn't mean that these risks don't exist with him, the age, right, the career touches. So I would cuff him with Benson, but I mean, as an RB2, RB3 on a roster, you could really supercharge your team. All right, now let's hop into the mock draft, guys. As always, we're just going to start it right up and see if we can capitalize on some of these veterans. We'll do a random draft selection here for our pick. We are given the second pick. Let me turn off my face cam and my face cam border so you guys aren't upset in the comments that you can't see the board. Valid complaint, by the way. Don't get me wrong, valid complaint. But we are up at the 102. Now, 101, 102, believe it or not, I think this year, these are the best picks in drafts. You know, last year, 4, 5, 6 even, I really liked because I just couldn't order those top 5 or 6 players. I couldn't do it. A lot of them had RB1 overall ceiling. A lot of them had wide receiver 1 overall ceiling. 101, 2026, 2025, 101 ceiling. But this year, there are really 2 top players for me in drafts, and it's Bijan Robinson and Jamar Chase. So I get the question all the time, what pick should I select? I have the option to, pick my pick in my draft. I think 102 is the best because you're just getting one of Chase or Robinson. And that's it. I know it sounds very basic, but sometimes there's no need to overcomplicate it. Now, we go Bijan at the 102. All right, so let's see if we can implement a bit of a hero RB strategy here and capitalize on maybe a James Conner later as our RB2, okay, for example. So let's, at the 211, we're back up. Let's see what receivers are available. And right away, Tyreek Hill's here. Now, his ADP is 26, so technically outside of round 2. I don't know if I want him in round 2, per se. All of the round 2 receivers are gone. We're looking at Ladd off the board, JSN, London, A.J. Brown. They're all gone. But Trey McBride is still on the board here. I'm going to take Trey McBride, okay? Let's implement the hero running back strategy. With a hero RB, with a hero wide receiver, you have to draft elite tight end and elite QB. And again, I'm talking 1 QB, 1 tight end leagues right now. There will be a super flex episode coming out, a 3 wide receiver episode coming out. Don't worry, there always are. You guys know that. Follow on Twitter at JoeRicoFF, at NOEXPERTFF for those strategies as well. But if we're running hero RB and Trey McBride is available in the late 2, we are taking him. He is a value pick. Now you might say, no, he's not. Second round for tight end's crazy. When you compare his ADP to Brock Bowers, who is going sometimes in round 1, top 15 pick, and you consider that McBride is basically equivalent to Bowers, McBride 12 picks later becomes a value. It's all about perspective. Now, if you were to say to me, well, Kittle's available in the 4th, so McBride's not a value. Maybe Kittle's better. I would agree with you too. It's all about perspective. I do think, though, that Bowers and McBride are in a clear tier above the rest in terms of risk, everything, stage in their career, guaranteed targets, offensive scenario. Bowers and McBride are tier 1 tight ends above Kittle. So I'm willing to, quote, pay up and view McBride as a value to Bowers. Anyway, this is not a McBride episode, so let's continue. Now in the 3rd round, Tyreek Hill is the pick, a veteran we mentioned today. So I look at my team through 3 rounds, and I'm going to turn the face cam back on, ladies and gentlemen. So take a look at those picks coming in right now at the 312 and the 401, James Cook and DJ Moore, okay? Face cam's going back on, and I'll talk a little bit more about Tyreek and the team right now. So through 3 rounds, we have Bijan, McBride, and Tyreek Hill. Those are 3 players with wide receiver 1, tight end 1, RB1, okay? Best overall at their position ceiling. Fact, those 3 players. We're going to lean on Bijan here, and we're going to continue to draft wide receivers or QB. Now, here, For QB, I'm looking at Mahomes, Mayfield, Goff, that tier. I'm not going to pay up at the end of the fourth for that. If Burrow or Hurts was there, I most likely would have. So let's head over to wide receiver. Cortland Sutton, Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith. I like Sutton. Let me just peek at running back, even though we're hero RBing. Yeah, James Conner, 55 overall. Kamara's there, Marion's there. Okay, let's go ahead and draft Cortland Sutton. So we have Tyreek and Sutton as our 2 wide receivers through 4 rounds. They are on the same team for us as McBride and Robinson. And I don't like the wide receiver options here available in the 5th. Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith, Olave, too early for Worthy. Okay, I'm targeting that Worthy, Waddle, Pickens, Williams tier, kind of at the end of the 5th. The way the board's shaping up right now, at the 102 for us, we're not going to get those guys, but that's okay. Let's look at RB. Maybe we go the RB route. James Conner is there. Alvin Kamara is there. Chuba Hubbard's there. Bunch of guys that I like. As for QB, we do have Mahomes. Again, though, more of a late 5th pick. So I'm in a bit of a pickle here with who I want to take because I wanted to really wait on running back, but looking at the receivers, I like the guys later better. Looking at QB, I like the guys later better. Looking at tight end, we already have McBride. So the pick is going to be a running back. I think this is a good moment to kind of outline that when you go into a draft with the strategy, that's a great idea. But if it doesn't seem to be playing out for you, don't jam it, okay? Don't force it right now. Don't say to yourself, no, I'm doing hero RB. I have Bijan. I cannot draft an RB until the 90th overall pick. Don't do that, okay? Right here, the pick is very, very obviously a running back. We have Kamara, Hubbard, and Conner on the board. I do prefer the 2 former players to James Conner, even though it's a Conner episode. Let's just go ahead and draft Alvin Kamara, okay? So through 5 rounds, the roster's looking pretty good. We have Bijan and Kamara, Tyreek Hill, Cortland Sutton, and Trey McBride, all right? Let's see who ends up on our board here, closing out the 6th round, moving into the 7th, and we'll start to rapid fire these picks just a little bit, all right? So coming back to us, I am going to swerve RB here. So the RB candidates, we have 2 already, and we're looking at Tyrone Chasey, Tony Pollard. I like Judkins, but I don't need him right now, okay? The 2 former names I don't like very much at all. As for wide receiver, Hunter, Odunze, Shakir, Ridley. Okay, some names. We like Ridley. We talked about him today. Let's look at QB. We have Goff, Nix, Murray. Okay. Yeah, the pick here is going to be Bo Nix. I have Bo Nix clearly ranked ahead of guys like Jared Goff, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes. I like some of those players, but Bo Nix is the pick with Cortland Sutton on the team. We'll go back to the wide receiver position here, and Calvin Ridley's a selection. So like I said, a guy like Ridley, who we talked about already, all right, on the episode, wide receiver 17 to close the season. Quarterback upgrade, we presume, with Cam Ward, going in the 7th round, guys. And I reached on him. I mean, he's really an 8th round pick as your wide receiver 3. That's exactly what we're talking about, okay? Coming back to us in the 8th here, Cooper Kupp's on the board. Jacoby Myers goes right before us. I'm not super in love with the wide receivers. Josh Downs is a very good pick. He'll probably end up on the roster here, but looking at the running backs, we have ETN. He's our guy. We'll take him, just add some RB depth. Back to wide receiver, we'll take Josh Downs, okay? So just kind of filling in the roster here, and it's very nice, right, when you have an elite tight end. When you have a somewhat elite QB in Bo Nix. I think another, top 8 season from him, we'll start to call him elite, but I can just fill in my roster now with value. All right, coming into the 10th round here, who's on the board? We have Keon Coleman, Jalen McMillan, Juwan Jennings, Emeka Egbuka, Jaden Higgins. This is the round for wide receivers 10 and 11. I love those names. I'm not super in love with Rachaad White, Tank Bigsby, those RB options. So let's go Coleman here. We'll double back on wide receiver here, and we'll take an Emeka Egbuka, right? Let's just do that. So at the moment, for receivers, we're probably done. We have Hill, Sutton, Ridley, Downs, Coleman, Egbuka. So we're probably done there. We're really going to end this draft, the last 2 picks here, with 2 running backs as the board makes its way back to us here in the 12th round. Let's see who's available. Austin Eckler is gone, darn it, at the 12:09. But we have Jaden Blue. We'll grab him. And we'll grab a Ray Davis. Okay, guys, so that's going to do it. The final roster here. Very happy with how this turned out. And a good lesson to be fluid in your drafts and not be super locked in. Bo Nix at QB, Bijan and Alvin Kamara at the RBs, Tyreek Hill and Cortland Sutton, okay, capitalizing on that Hill veteran discount, Trey McBride at tight end, Calvin Ridley and ETN in the flex, who can be interchanged with Josh Downs, Coleman, Egbuka, Jaden Blue, and Ray Davis on the bench, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode today. I appreciate all the support, fellas. All right, peace.